All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
What gives you the confidence tomorrow night it'll be safe? Right.
I'm going to be there.
Me too.
And you've been listening to New Orleans officials with the latest information on a deadly attack that left 10 people dead and 35 injured. They were killed after a driver identified by the FBI this afternoon as suspect 42-year-old Shamsa Din Jabbar. He apparently intentionally rammed into a crowd at a New Year's Eve celebration in the heart of the French Quarter as people were celebrating New Year's Eve celebrations in New Orleans early this morning. Here on the first day of 2025, the FBI says the suspect was driving a Ford pickup truck, which appears to have been rented, and it's working to confirm how the subject came into possession of the vehicle. Now, the suspect is a U.S. citizen from Texas, and an ISIS flag was located in the vehicle. The FBI is working to determine potential affiliations with terrorist organizations. Weapons and a potential IED were located in the vehicle, and other potential IEDs, there were two that the FBI talked about, were located in the French Quarter. Now, President Joe Biden released a statement on the attack a little while ago. It reads in part, "My heart goes out to the victims and their families who were simply trying to celebrate the holiday. There is no justification for violence of any kind, and we will not tolerate any attacks on any of our nation's communities." Meanwhile, President-elect Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social, saying, quote, "When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen. Our hearts are with all of the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil." Important to note that we are still waiting on more information about that suspect. And as the New Orleans police chief did describe, crime has been down in the city of New Orleans. Now at 2:50 live here, I'm Reuben Jones in our Washington studio. We're joined by Chief Jim Bierman, who has spent more than 40 years in policing. He is now a senior fellow and advisory board member of the Center for Evidence-Based Crime Policy. And on the phone, we're also joined by Spectrum's criminal justice reporter, Dean Meminger, based in New York City. Gentlemen, thank you both for your time this afternoon. Chief, let me start with you, because I think perhaps the most eyebrow-raising moment from this press conference was when the FBI said they do not believe the suspect was solely responsible. That really changes the dynamics of this investigation. What behind the scenes are the FBI and local police authorities likely doing to figure out other potential connections with this suspect?
Absolutely. It is very insightful, and there are efforts underway all over the country, I suspect, to try to determine his associates, his activities, uh, and they'll be looking at everything from his digital footprints to who he knows individually and what role they may have had. So that they have made substantive progress in that area, or the ASAC would have said that.
Dean, there were some tense moments during that press conference when there was a lot of discussion about what the security was like involving this New Year's Eve celebration. The police department saying they did not use what's known as these bollards that are basically used for security. They're hard metal. And if you see some of the video, they use these more orange and white kind of caution blockers instead. Talk about what they use in New York for the ball drop. And obviously New York City remembers an incident similar to this back in 2017 when you had a deadly truck incident there as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that truck incident, which happened on Halloween of 2017. And a guy rented a truck, went down a pedestrian and bike path, killed 8 people. After that, they put these cement or concrete barriers all up and down that pedestrian path along the West Side Highway for miles and miles. We've seen this across the country as well when it comes to these big events like this on Bourbon Street. So these bollards, these barricades, they're supposed to stop this from happening. But sometimes it doesn't happen because in this case, you heard the police chief say, well, those bollards were not working and the driver went up on the sidewalk, crashing into people, killing multiple folks. So they will have to look at this situation not only in New Orleans, but in many cities across the country when you have big events, how do you protect them? The one thing New York City does, they also bring in sanitation trucks, DEP trucks, environmental protection trucks, sand trucks to block off these areas to prevent this sort of thing from happening. But as you mentioned, the big news here, they are looking for other individuals, whether they are friends, family members, or just someone he met online.
Yeah, and Dean, I mean, New York City used to this, a massive operation at NYPD. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of coordination to figure out on the national level what potential involvement there might be with others.
Exactly. I mean, was this something that just targeted that city of New Orleans, or was it something that they were trying to target the Sugar Bowl, which is now postponed for a day? You know, Mardi Gras will be starting soon at the big event in March. You have the Super Bowl in February. Were these improvised explosive devices set out a day or two ago? So that's why they are trying to be very cautious now, because when they say they're looking for other individuals, well, where are those individuals? Are they in Louisiana? Are they in Texas? Are they somewhere in Chicago, Philadelphia? We're waiting for the FBI to tell us. But once again, they don't want to give too much information out as they try to arrest other suspects.
Chief, a lot of the attention on that press conference was focused on football. Sugar Bowl postponed, as Dean mentioned, 24 hours. You've got Mardi Gras coming up. You've got the Super Bowl. Are you surprised that the Sugar Bowl is delayed and delayed only for 24 hours? And talk about what additional security would look like, because assumably security was already going to be very tight.
Right, I'm sure it was. And I think that's a prudent decision on their part. But clearly, this press conference, given the political nature of it, was intended to address what is in the world of criminology called the fear of crime, or in this case, the fear of terrorism. They're trying to settle people down and not only give them some assurance that they're doing everything possible. I think the governor has made a real good decision about committing the National Guard to uh, the environment, but also it will give the security people, all of the folks that are working to make the Sugar Bowl safe, some additional time to bring in additional resources, uh, revisit their safety plans, because as we saw in this particular instance, all it takes is one small mistake. In this case, it was assuming that, for some reason, assuming that nobody would drive on the sidewalk, for whatever plan you had put in place to go right down the drain. So I think this is a prudent thing for them to do. And most of the comments that you heard were really about trying to calm people down.
Well, just across the block here at the U.S. Capitol, we have had additional security fencing go up in preparation for the inauguration, and also in preparation for the anniversary of January 6th, the counting and certification of the electoral results. Chief, only have about 30 seconds here, but real quick, is this the new reality for law enforcement? Because we had that deadly truck ramming just last month in Germany. We talked about the situation in New York. This is a new challenge, is it not?
I don't know if it's a new challenge, but it should be a wake-up call to not forget the lessons that we should have already learned, because there have been multiple examples of people using vehicles as weapons. Um, Terrorism hasn't gone away. Domestic extremism hasn't gone away. And I think this is a wake-up call.
Good information and a good point. Chief Jim Bierman and our criminal justice reporter, Dean Meminger, thank you both for your time. We will continue to follow the very latest on this developing story out of New Orleans all afternoon and evening on this first day of 2025 here on Spectrum News. Thanks for joining us. We'll continue and go back to your local programming.